Hi, welcome to Easy Agent Studio. In this tutorial, we're going to be setting up our agent. We're going to connect it to our LLM. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over to OpenAI. It's called platform, openai.com, API keys. Once you set up your OpenAI account, you can then create keys that will use tokens to be able to set up. You need that in order to be able to communicate to your LLM. So we just went out, created some, set up an account, gave it our credit card, bought $20 worth of tokens, and now we're going to create a key. So I'm just going to delete the previous key. I'm going to revoke it. And then I'm going to just do create new key. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to call this agent 1. And then I'll leave it the default project and I'll leave it as all and I'll do create secret key. But before I do that, let's go back into our Easy Agent Studio. I'll go ahead and close that, double click on that. We're going to go into our previous agent, which is agent 1, the first one we did in our setup and installation. And we're going to go over to, I'm going to delete that right there, make it just I'm going to say my first, I'm going to go into, let's do this first. But when you first open up your project, you're going to have a main window. And we're going to right mouse click. That's the sizing properties for the window. And if you double left mouse click, you can go into the property pages. Or if you want to, you can then select main window here and go into the property pages by doing that. So I'm going to call this my first. I'm going to change the caption. My first agent. And I'm going to hit OK. And then it just changes the caption. I'm going to hit the build button. Every time you build the project, it will build the project and it'll save the previous project. Whatever you make changes to, it'll save it. So then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a LLM control. So I'm going to go over to the LLM control. I can either choose the icon or I can come over to controls and I can come down to LLM and I can choose that. And I'm just going to call this chat 1. And I'm going to choose Chat GPT. I'm going to leave it all the default information. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to select show right here. And I'm going to change this information right here. I'm going to get the API key and put it in there. So I'm going to go back over to my website. And then I'm going to do a create secret key. And then I'm going to copy that key. And then I'm going to come back over to my project. And I'm just going to paste it right over top of that. And then I'm going to hit hide. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to hit build. Now I've saved my key. So now I can just come back in here. I can do done. And we'll just minimize that browser. Don't need that anymore. And we'll go from there. Okay. So let's go into that control and look and see what we've done. And talk a little bit about the setup of an LLM. It doesn't matter what LLM you're working with. If you're working with ChatGPT, or if you're working with Gemini, you're working with Perplexity, you're working with Grok, any of them, they interface with your information, whether you're using this tool or whether you're using another tool to develop your agent with. It's always going to be interfacing it the same way. They use a REST API and they use JSON. JSON is a markup language. It's a format that allows us to be able to communicate to the LLMs in a very generic way. So if you're on a Mac machine, you can do it. If you're on a Windows machine, you can do it. It's just a communication way, and it's a very structured and process, and it structures your data in a way that generically all of your LLMs can interface with it. So here we've done some pre-work for you using Easy Agent Studio, and all we've done basically is we've got the JSON messages here. Now, if you look at this information right here, when you do an open bracket percent sign, a variable name percent sign, that's within the Easy Agent Studio. That's a variable declaration. So we're going to be passing it JSON information. We're going to be passing it tools information. And we're going to use the GPT-4o Mini. We're going to leave the max tokens at 8,000. And we're going to use the temperature of 0.7. You can go on to OpenAI site or any of the other sites for the LLM and learn more about that. And then we're going to hit OK right there. So I'm going to need to first create some variables. So the first variable I want to create is I'm going to go over to variables. And a variable is nothing more than a placeholder in computer memory that holds data. You can use a static variable. If you click the A button right here, it'll take you into the variables properties page. And you can see that Easy Agent Studio supports 6 different types of variables. We have a Boolean, which is true or false. We have a number without a decimal point. We have an amount with a decimal point. And we can have multiple decimal points like in pi or something like that. Static variable is data that is predefined and that doesn't change. And then a variable data type is something that does change. Let's say we pull something from an edit control, capture the data, we're going to put it in a variable data type. And then a date is your system date. We'll pull from that. We can change the month, the year, days, interface with that, use calendars and things like that. So we're going to create some very basic variables here. So we're going to start off with the question. We're going to create the question. We're going to start that off. So I'm going to use LP question. That's just the name. I can give it any name I want. I'm using LP. That's an old terminology from C, C++, long pointer. You could use text. You could use whatever you want to call it. That's fine. So I'm going to make the question, and I'm going to give the question, let's say, 400 characters. So I'm going to come down and choose the length, and I'm going to hit add. Okay, now I'm going to create a system role and a user role. Now let's talk about that for just a second. So I'm going to use the enlarge button right here, and I'm going to talk about the system role. The system role in a LLM defines how you want the LLM to be, meaning, you are an assistant, you are a general assistant, you are somebody who knows a lot about math, somebody knows a lot about computer programming. You're basically asking the LLM, large language model, to act in a certain way. So we're going to use what we call a system role. So this is the role that is used by the LLM. And then we got a user role. And the user role is us. It's the question that we put. So we might have the question. We might have, some other information like skills. If you ever seen some old skills.md files or markdown files, that all goes inside of that user role. So we're going to use that. And then we have what we call the assistant role. And the assistant role is what's returned from the LLM. So that information comes back from the LLM and we interface with that. So for this, let's just leave this, these 3, system role, user role, assistant role. So we're going to keep that in the back of our heads, our minds, our thoughts, and we're going to keep on moving. Okay, so we've got the questions set up. Now we're going to need something to hold that information. So we're going to come up here and we're going to create a variable called LPJSON. This is where we want all the JSON data to go. We're going to interface with that. We're going to capture it and whatever else. So I'm going to make it very big. I'm going to make it 20,000 bytes of data, 20K, because it's pretty big. Okay, now we're going to create another one called LP content. And that's the information from the assistant when it returns back to us. We want to do something with that. So we're going to make that 20,000 as well. And then we're going to have one called LP final. And the LP final, we'll make it 20K as well. And don't worry about the size on these variables. They're global variables, meaning they're defined in memory on the whole project. The whole agent has this information in the agent. It's allocated at the time the agent runs and executes, and we can just keep that data out there. Okay, so now we're going to come over here and we're going to use a static variable. And the static variable is we're going to come here and we're going to grab we're going to call this a template, and we're going to call this the system. And that's the system role. And I'm going to click on this system button right here, and I'm going to let it create. And I can enlarge this to show you what this says. It says role, system, content. This is JSON format. In a JSON format, you can't have enter keys. You can't have return keys. It's specific to a universal format. So we've already created this for you so you don't have to try to work on the format. We'll be talking about format later on, and we'll be doing some additional formatting on JSON as we go forward. But for right now, we're just going to do this system role as a template. We're going to hit OK, and we're going to add it. Now we're going to do another role. We're going to do template user. And we're just going to click the user button. And you can see this is an easy one. We've got the question. You can see I've created the question up here. LP question. And it's the content. Just the information coming from the user. So we're just going to add that. So we've got template user. Now let's just stop right there. And let's go ahead and work on our controls. So we've got that. We'll hit the build button to save the project, execute it. And now we're going to come over here and we're going to create a edit control. So I'm going to left mouse click. Anywhere you left mouse click on a main window, a panel, dialog window, that the next time you put a control on that window, it'll be in that position. So I'm going to left mouse click here. I'm going to go to edit control. And I'm going to create an edit control called EC or edit control underscore question. And again, every variable, every control, every object within your project has an identifier. We're an event-driven environment. We're an event-driven development platform. And the IDE manages all of this through these naming conventions that we give it. So we're going to just call it, and it's easy to keep up with this way too. So we're going to call this EC question. We're going to make it a multi-line edit control, and we're going to use a V scroll, and we'll get rid of the H scroll. The H scroll means that it goes all the way beyond horizontally, but we just want it to be vertical up and down. So we're going to come over here, and we'll just resize this and come over here like that. And then I'm going to put a button right here. I'm going to left mouse click here and put a button, and I'm going to call this PB Ask, ASK. So I'm going to do ask like we're asking the question, and I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to make this a themed button. If you just use standard, it's just the standard Windows button, but we're going to make it a themed button, so we'll hit OK there. And now when we build the application, you can see that we've got that button and we've got that edit control, and that's fine. We're good on that. So I'm going to go in here now, and I'm going to create another edit control, and we're going to call this edit control EC content, or EC, let's make this EC, not content, but EC results. Results coming back from the LLM. So it's going to be response. Let's call this response. That's it. That would be better. Let's do EC response. It's going to be multi-line. It's going to have a V scroll. We'll get rid of the H scroll, and we'll come down. We'll resize that one to be about this big right here. And then we're going to copy this one. We're going to stretch this out a little bit. And we're going to copy this one. So I'm going to left mouse click right there. right mouse click on that edit control, go up to our copy control and click that button. Then we're going to double left mouse click into it and we're going to call this EC-JSON. And that's our JSON control that we're going to be hosting or putting all of our JSON information in there before we communicate with the LLM. Okay? Now, let's build a function. So a function is a set of actions that is executed by the user or by the agent automatically when something it needs to occur, meaning a task. So if I'm a user and I go in and I click build and I go in and I type in, say, what are the colors of the rainbow? Now that's a question. And and I want that question to be sent to the LLM. So I will use this button to do an ask. So that's what a function does. It takes the information, it processes a set of actions, which is called a function, that will execute commands, whether to an LLM, to a database, to another process, to another JavaScript, whatever. It communicates with the controls, and that's what we're basically doing. So we're going to use that as the premise to take action to the LLM. So I'm going to create a function, and to get to it, I can come up here and I can do either function with the menu, or I can come over here to function and just click it. Now I'm going to add a new function, and I'm just going to call it ASK. And it puts a prefix in there, a group name, which is general. You can create a new group name if you want to. Okay, so we're going to start pulling down information from that question. So I'm going to go over to my edit control. This is the function property manager. These are all the action groups that we can take within Easy Agent Studio. And when I click on one, you can see that it has a lot of actions for that particular group. Like this is an Active Directory control. This is an Azure control. This is a box control. So we're going to go down to our edit control and we're going to do get edit text. And we're going to grab the EC question and we're going to take the information that's inside of the EC question and we're going to put it in that variable called LP question. So I'm going to just come down to my variable and I'm going to just go to A and it's going to pop up and we're just going to choose that question. I want the edit control contents to go into that variable called LP question. So I'll do that. And then that's it. That's that. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to clean that up because in an LLM, if you put quotes in the question, then the LLM will have to have, because it's JSON, you have to put an escape character in front of it, a backslash. So we're going to go down to our LLM control and we're going to do check quotes. And check quotes basically says that if the user keyed in quotes, we're going to clean that up and we're going to put the escapement in there, or the escape character, which is a backslash. And we're going to just let it be added to. So now we check the quotes. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back up here to the top and we're going to add some actions in front of it. So we want to clear, because this is a new question, we want to clear what's inside those edit controls just to make sure. So we're going to go back up to our edit control and we're going to, if you highlight an action and you put an action and add another action, it'll go above that blue line. So that we're going to insert some actions basically. We're going to go to our edit control and we're going to do clear edit text and we're going to clear the response and we're going to clear the JSON. We're going to clear the contents of those two edit controls. So now we get text, check quotes, And then after that, we're going to come back over here and we're going to go back over to our LLM and we're going to start a new conversation. And we're going to choose the control, which is chat 1. And we're going to choose the edit control, which is that JSON. All of the content that goes into the system role, the user role, all of that goes into that edit control ECJSON. Then we're going to grab all that data and send it over to the LLM. So I'm just going to add it first. And then I'm going to do add conversation system. Then I'm going to come over. I'm going to do chat 1. The edit control is going to be JSON. And we're going to add that system template. And you remember that system template, what it had in there? Do you see this right here? It says you're a helpful assistant, diddle-a-da, diddle-a-da. We're talking about using Windows 1252 character set. All of this information is telling us how we want the LLM to be set up, how we want it to be configured. It's the system prompt, and it prompts the LLM to act in a certain way. So we're going to use that information, and we're going to drop that in. And now it's going to be added to that JSON edit control. And then we're going to do add conversation user. So I'm going to do the same thing. Chat 1, edit controls JSON, and then the user role, remember the user role? It's going to use this format because it's JSON, but it's going to insert that variable. And that variable is LP question. So it's going to take the data that we got off the edit control for the LP question, and it's going to put it inside of this user role automatically. So we're just going to do change. We don't even need to do change. We're just going to choose the user role, and then that's going to drop into that action, and we'll just do that. Now, let's stop right there and run this and see what we've got. So I'm going to hit OK, add user, and then we're going to connect that button. So I'm going to go over to the button. I'm going to left mouse click, double left mouse click to get into the properties page, or you can come over here and you see where it's the ask. You can see all the controls that are in the main window now if you drop down. If you put another window there like a dialog box or a panel, you'll see all of the controls for that particular window, but because we only have the main window, then you've got all of these controls. So we're going to go to PB Ask, and we're going to go into the properties. Then we're going to go into the events button, and where the user clicks the button, we want that function to execute. So we're just going to do general ask. We'll hit OK, and now let's see what happens. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to run the app or the agent, and I'm going to do what are the colors of the rainbow. And what should happen is this information gets captured. It sets up the system role and the user role in this ECJSON edit control, and it cleans the data. And you can see that the format is already there for you, and it automatically puts the user role and the system role together. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to grab all of this data and we're going to send it over to the LLM. So let's go back into our function. We're going to do ask, come over. Now we're going to go back into our edit control, and we're going to do get edit text. And the get edit text is from JSON. We're going to use the variable called LPJSON. Remember that big long one, 20,000 characters? Because it could be a big prompt. We could be doing some stuff. Okay, so now we've got that, and now we're going to ask the question. But remember that LPJSON is a variable. Let's look at the control real quick. So let's go back over to our control, and you can see that we've embedded inside of messages this variable called LPJSON. You can call it something else if you want, not a problem. But if you leave it just like it is, LPJSON, all that information has to go inside those two brackets before it gets sent over to the LLM. That's required by any tool, any development tool, whether you're using, any development IDE tool to the LLM. It's going to be talking to the LLM exactly the same way we're talking to it. So it's going to use that. So coming back, go back into our function, ask. We grab all that information into the LPJSON, and then we just go and ask the question to the LLM. Just ask it the question. And it's going to automatically use that LPJSON variable to send over to the LLM. So I'm going to take the response data that the LLM gives us back, and we're going to put it in that LP response variable. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to create a LP response variable. I'm going to do LP response, and I'm going to make it also 20,000 characters. I'm going to hit OK, LP response. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my edit control, and I'm going to do set edit text into the EC response, and I'm going to put that LP response return value, all that data, back into EC response edit control. And now I'm going to hit it, and I'm going to build the app, and I'm going to ask that same question. What are the colors of the rainbow? And now when we ask the question, it's going to grab all the information from the JSON, ask the question, get a response back, and we're going to put the response data back over here. So I'm going to hit ask. And now you can see all that information comes back. And here you can see all of this is in JSON format. It's got a lot of information. It's got the ID, it's got the chat completion, tells you the model, tells you how many tokens were consumed. And you can see we're not using a lot of tokens. Again, we're not developing using tokens. This is all predetermined actions. This is an IDE development platform for agent development. But now what we're going to do is we're going to grab that information, and we only want this data. We don't want all of it. We just want that data right there, because we could grab all that information, but we need to get it back to the user where they can see it in just the data. Okay. So we're going to come up, we're going to modify this a little bit. So let's go ahead and let's move this edit control up a little bit. This is our response edit control. And let's put our JSON data up a little bit as well. And let's create another edit control right here. And we're going to call this, let's call this EC content. And we're going to make it a multi-line. We're going to use a V scroll, get rid of H scroll. And remember, a lot of this is going to be hidden to the user because we're going to wrap all this around an email system on your mobile device so that you're really not seeing the Windows version, but it'll be, you can call this agent from anywhere in the world if you got it hooked up to your Gmail account. And that's what we're planning on doing. So I'm going to come in here and call this content. Now let's go back and run this again, and let's look at what are the colors of the rainbow. And I'm going to hit ask, and it's going to come back and give me a return. And you can see that here we want to grab an object name. And you can see that object name, then you've got created, you got the model, that's an object name. You got message, and then you got role assistant. Remember we talked about the assistant role. And now you've got content. We want to fetch the content from the return value of the LLM. So that's the name that we want to see. And it's all lowercase. So let's use that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come up here after we do the ask and get it into that information. Remember, it is the LP response. We're going to come down. We're going to go to variables. We're going to come all the way down and we're going to grab a variable called, let's go back up here and go down and call this, let's read this information, extracts an argument from the JSON block defined by an argument name. For LLM, it would be the property of the args list. We don't want that one. We're going to get the key string. So we're going to double click on that, JSON get string. We've got some helper actions that you don't have to deal with the JSON parser. So we're going to do two variable is going to be LP final, or we'll call it, we don't have to do that. We'll just grab it to the content. So we're going to do LP content, and then we're going to do the from variable is the response. Remember, we got that coming back from the LLM. And then the key name is the content. And we're going to hit OK. And now that we've got that data, we're going to go back over to our edit control. And we're going to do set edit text to the EC content from the LP content. And let's see what we get. And then we're going to hit OK. Then we're going to hit OK. We'll do build. We're going to say, what are the colors of the rainbow? We're going to hit ask. And what should happen is all the information's coming out. Then we fetch out the content data from the JSON. We let our JSON helper files do that, helper actions, and we put the results right here in the content area. So if I come over here, I come down, and now you can see the colors of the rainbow are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Now, the only other thing we want to do is we want to come in here and we want to clear that edit control when we ask a new question. So I'm going to come up here. Remember, we cleared the text, so we're just going to insert one above this one. And we're going to come back down to our edit control. And we're going to do clear edit text. And we're going to clear the content. And we're going to hit OK. We're going to hit OK. Now, let's go ahead and build this again. And let's do this. Let's say using C#, can you add two numbers together? And let's see what it kind of, if we get a piece of code back using C#. And you can see, certainly, here's a simple C# code snippet to add two numbers together. And you can see that we're pulling data from the LLM and we're getting back the information we need. Now, we can grab this and we can just cut and copy that right there into a script control and compile this into where we want to be, using this as a development platform. I can just easily come over here, come in, grab a script control, come in and do script 1, go over to the console. I want to create a console, say add numbers. We're going to get into this a little bit later on, but I'll just show you. That's console, and then I just do paste, and now I've pasted that app right there. And when we go back over to it, we might have to do an include there, but when I hit the compile button, we do start, and it automatically grabs the compiler. Of course, I've got errors because I don't have the include in there, but you get the gist of it. We're going to talk more about that as we go along. But we can compile executables directly from Easy Agent Studio. We're going to be adding these extensions as we go along. It's just a helper. It helps us to be able to get code snippets from the LLM. And this does produce tokens, but it doesn't produce a lot of tokens. We'll just work through it and look at it and go from there. But you get the gist. So now we can come in here and we can also say, what happened in the year 1901 in the state of New York. And we hit ask. And then it comes back and it should give us a synopsis, or summary of what happened, basic summary. And this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be interfacing with this data and also scheduling data and additional direct data coming from our own data sources. This is general data coming from the LLM. But we're going to be using this with tools to be able to fetch data directly from our own data resources and manipulate that data, bring it back to our client, and bring it back to our Gmail system so that we can communicate to our agents anywhere we want to. And again, you can just build a standalone client app, or you can build an agent that communicates back to your Gmail account, whether you're using Outlook, whether you're using Yahoo, whether you're using Gmail, whether you're using any of those, any email system that, Apple Mail, whatever that uses, or Google, whatever, Gmail. So, you're able to interface with your own mobile device, email, without having to install anything, but it'll communicate with your desktop at your house, at your work, and execute your agents directly on your desktop app. Here, do whatever you need to do, and it'll return the results to you. We'll talk more about that as we go along. Or you can do this as a client app, give it out to your people that you work with. They can then ask their own questions, get their own information, and you can build a desktop app for your clients. And it's an agent also. That's it for this tutorial. We're going to continue in our next tutorial. We're going to go ahead and start hooking up into Gmail so that we can start talking to these agents through our mobile device. That's it for this tutorial. Hope that worked out for you. Thanks and have a great day.